of the EBow as being kind of like a stomp box effect, something you just kind of plug in and turn on, and there it is. And the EBow really isn't like that. It's really a very, very sensitive device. And all the angles of how you're holding it in relation to the string, the slightest difference in those angles will have an effect on the sound. So you really have to be careful with the subtleties of it, and you really have to practice with it a lot. The second challenge in using the EBow is that since it was designed for guitar, it was really designed so that you can just kind of plunk it down on any 3 strings, and it will rest on the outer 2 strings and drive the center string. And it's pretty comfortable on guitar, but since the string spacing is different on the bass, you really have to have a different way to align it in exactly the right alignment to drive the strings. So let me show you what I do for this. I rest this edge of the EBow against the fingerboard and then slowly tilt the EBow in toward the string. And this is good because it keeps the drive channel of the EBow exactly parallel to the string, which is just what you want. Here's how it looks. Now by doing this, you can really control just how much volume you get out of the EBow by tilting it in more if you want more drive and pulling it back if you want less drive. Now another challenge in using the EBow is it was really designed to replace a pick so that you would hold it instead of a pick. And sometimes it kind of gets in the way. And I like to have mine really available all the time. So what I do is I like to hold it in the back of my hand like this. And that kind of leaves these 3 fingers free to play pizzicato, and yet the EBow is really ready whenever I need it. Now the EBow is a really useful device, and I find for a lot of gigs that I do, I kind of have it in the back of my hand ready to play all the time. But it's funny, I really found that I wasn't using it that much in my solo shows. And that's because the EBow was really designed to be monophonic, which means it was designed just to sustain 1 note at a time. And that's fine, except for I just didn't feel that inspired to write a piece, a solo piece for unaccompanied melody. So what I did is I came up with a way for using 2 EBows simultaneously. I realized that I could hold 2 of them in my right hand, and they're just wide enough so if I hold them like this, I could rest the outer edges against the fingerboard and just play the outer 2 strings of the hyperbass and still have pretty good amount of control over how much drive is applied to each string. So I wrote an entire solo piece like this, basically a solo piece for 2 strings on the hyperbass. And I'll play that in a minute, but before I do, we should probably look at some of the unusual techniques that we're going to be using with the EBow in this piece. One of the techniques is sustained harmonics. With the EBow, it's possible not only to sustain open strings and closed tones, but also if you're real careful about where you use the EBow along the length of the string, you can actually sustain harmonics even without having to keep your left hand on the harmonic node. Now another technique that we're going to use is the distortion that comes in play when you get the EBow close to the magnetic pickup. What happens is that the 2 magnetic fields kind of interfere with each other, and you really get this interesting color. If you hold the EBow directly over the pickup, you're going to greatly increase the output from the guitar, and you're also going to get a massive amount of distortion in the signal. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to turn my volume on my bass way down and slowly bring it up. only got my volume up to about a fifth or a sixth there. So, you really get a pretty intense sound. But that distortion effect really fades in depending on how close to the pickup that you're using the ebow. If you play with the ebow in the middle of the string, you'll get a nice clean sustain. Now the tuning for this piece we're going to play, the piece is called Adhan. And the tuning of the middle two strings is going to be inconsequential because we're going to play the entire piece on just the outer two strings. In fact, this pickup on the hyperbass is actually a quadraphonic pickup, which is to say they're actually separate outputs for each string. And so when I did the recording, I didn't even bother plugging in the middle two strings. So we're going to tune the low string to B flat. And this is B flat a half step above open A string on its bass and standard tuning. Now the high string, we're going to tune at F. This is an octave and a fifth above the low string.